the big news. Jimbo Fisher fired at A&M. Give me your initial thoughts when you saw this news break. I mean, like, you saw it on the timeline. We've expected it, I would say. Like, everyone's kind of said, "Oh, it's going to happen." But when it hit you, the notification on your phone, what was your immediate reaction?
My jaw hit the floor because I really did not expect them to make this move mid-season. But I don't know if you saw it, but at halftime of the game on Saturday, the athletic department, they flexed in the middle of that game. Did you see the giant check that they unveiled? They got $160+ million donation to the athletic department. So they got their
Poor
money.
timing. Poor timing.
Yeah, well, it was hilarious. And what makes it better is if the reports are true, they made this decision on Thursday at a what they call it, Board of Regents, I think, Board of Regents meeting.
Yeah.
So they made the decision Thursday, and then they just showed off that giant check, all that money they got. That was hilarious. But yeah, I can't believe it. I can't believe that they're paying him $75 million to walk away. I figured that they would at least wait till the season was over and go through the season. But there was no mitigating that buyout, so there was no need to wait.
Yeah, and I remember you and I had the conversation, I guess it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we kind of gave both sides to it. Like, that amount you're going to have to pay whether he is on the sidelines or he is not there. So, I was watching, which if you're an A&M fan and you stumble across this, you probably have watched Texas Aggies before. To me, it's the leading content driver of what A&M wants to do, no matter what network you're talking about. They were talking about Billy Lucci, who's the guy that broke the news. He was talking about how there was a contingent of people saying 1 more year. And like, I get that and I understand that because different factors. And we're going to talk about this job, the money machine that A&M is. Like, I understand that too. But Will, why do you think they made the decision here and now? Because yes, you beat up on probably the worst team in the SEC outside of Vanderbilt, like 51-10. It was awful.
I would say
yeah,
the worst team in the
SEC. They're really bad. Vanderbilt might beat them.
Vanderbilt
might beat them. So, but your thoughts on this? I mean, why now? Like, why do you think they decided to make this coming off a win Sunday and just really drop the axe? 2 weeks left in the season. Portal opens up on the 4th, but the portal opened today for A&M players. We already saw one go in there. So your thoughts on this?
I think they just wanted to get ahead of everybody else. They looked around, they saw that nobody else had dropped the axe, so to speak, and they wanted to get ahead of it so they can officially talk to people. But they've been back channeling for months, maybe a year. They've been back channeling. But it was interesting. You say the 1 more year crowd. I would have been, if I was a Texas A&M fan, I would have been in that 1 more year crowd because you saw the offense was really starting to get going with Connor Wegman before he went down in that Auburn game. And I think if they have Wegman, they beat Alabama. I think Max Johnson really held them back. He's a really good quarterback, but he's just not as dynamic as Connor Wegman. I think 1 more year in that Jimbo Fisher / Bobby Petrino hybrid offense that they had, I think he would have done really well. But again, like their AD, it's Ross Bjork, right? Their AD now.
Yes.
There's been so many ADs staying in the SEC at different places. It's hard to keep them all straight. But he said it felt like the program was in neutral, and being an outside observer, exactly right. That's what it felt like. You knew the upside was there. You thought Jimbo Fisher could get them there. And I think, I was thinking about this earlier, trying to, like, if I was to put a tier list of coaches, like tier, A tier, I would say Jimbo Fisher is A tier, even though I said a couple weeks ago that he's 1-0. I still think he's a really good coach, really good recruiter. I think he could have gotten Texas A&M there, but they were stuck in neutral. And if you're stuck in neutral, especially in the SEC, and the SEC getting bigger, you're really going backwards. So they had to, they did it early so there would be no question about, are we actually going to fire this guy and hire this guy that we're talking to? They're going to hire the guy they're talking to.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, look, and we talk about this job. I mean, I know you and I both enjoy watching Josh Pate, and I think he hit the nail on the head with this. Like, this is a top-tier job. This is a
no
place
doubt about it
where you can go, and if you get an elite coach, they've had good coaches, and they've had great coaches. I mean, Jimbo Fisher is, when we look at the
Bear Bryant coached at Texas A&M. It was 100 years ago, but Bear Bryant coached at Texas A&M.
Very true. When you look at the body of work of what Jimbo Fisher does, I think we can say probably a better CEO and manager early on at Florida State than he was later at Florida State and in College Station. It's an attractive job. I've seen some people down here. Dr. Bob's already said, Jeff Traylor would be an interesting option at a UT.
You know why Dr. Bob's saying that? He doesn't want Mike Elko to leave.
He does it. Yeah, he said right here, don't take Elko. Please, no. Mike Elko would be a home run hire program builder
Absolutely
for A&M. But, look, you win 51 to 10. Will they promote not Bobby Petrino, not DJ Durkin, not even who is the often what's the guy that used to be the coach at Boston College?
Steve Adazio.
Steve Adazio.
I forgot
three former head coaches that they did not promote. So I think it shows the trust, and I can't remember the guy's name. Elijah something is the interim head coach for this. It shows the respect that they have, and apparently the players respect him. It's going to be a weird free-for-all. Like, it is going to be a weird free-for-all on the players in the portal. But I do agree with you. I think that this team was the same problems that were hurting them here this year have been hurting them for the past 6 years. So there's not a ton of growth. And like, we talk on our Georgia Tech show, the growing pains. It feels like it's been the same growing pains for 6 years. And so, and I will say this too. I don't think the second option, I do genuinely think that A&M is going to call Dan Lanning. I don't think I think that you have to make that phone call.
I think Dan Lanning's your first call because you've got Mike Elko. You've got familiarity with him. Lanning has to be your first call, but he's going to be so tough to pry away. We saw Auburn. His name was out there early and often for that Auburn job. And Phil Knight, big Nike money in Oregon, worked really hard, gave up a lot of money to keep him there. I think he'll do it again, but I think that oil money is deeper than the Nike money. But what Lanning's built up there, and he's still building because he's, year 2? He's I think he's going to have them in the playoff. I mean, that's probably hinting at my top 4, but I think he'll have them in the playoff this year. And he's building something really, really good out there. And why come to the pressure cooker that is the SEC?
Especially when you're moving to the Big Ten, if you're at Oregon, and that's something too to watch. Another name that we can dive more into this, obviously, in future shows. Jonathan Smith from Oregon State, a team that's kind of been left for dry. This is his chance to move to big time football. I mean, really, when you think about this, with Jonathan Smith, do you want to be in the SEC or the Mountain West? Like that's kind of where you sit with this, and so. I don't know, man. It's going to be really, really interesting to kind of watch this. I do think this, and we'll end the conversation here with talking about Jimbo Fisher. You got to make this hire within like 2 or 3 weeks. Portal officially opens on December 4th. You got to know, like within this week, who you're going to hire or who you're going to offer it to.
You got to do like Auburn has done multiple times. Auburn's done it more than once. 10 a.m. December 2nd, day of the SEC championship, steal the headlines, make the headlines ahead of the SEC championship because that's where you want to be. Yeah. So go ahead and make the headlines that day, no matter who it is, and it's got to be a big name. And I think they've got a couple big names lined up. I think it's going to be Brian Kelly to LSU type name, somebody that we really haven't heard of. I feel like Elko, if it's not Elko or Dan Lanning, it's going to be somebody that nobody has said.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. I mean, that one came completely out of left field. I texted because obviously LSU plays A&M in 2 weeks, setting up some stuff with them to do previews-wise. And I just mentioned it, and they said they would not be surprised if Monday after the LSU game is when it's announced. And even if it is a name that is involved in the playoff, that A&M's going to say, hey, look, you got to come here now. Like in the day and age of college football, you've got to make that jump now. It's not something where you really going we can keep quiet because we mentioned portal's already open for A&M for players to leave. It opens it for everybody on December 4th.
There's going to be major waves made across the country because of this Jimbo Fisher out and whoever the new guy's in that comes in. I mean, there's going to be assistants moving from all over the place.
Yeah.
So this is going to be felt by everybody.
Take them, Josh.
One can hope. One can hope.
I think it's going to be very, very interesting to watch this coaching hire.